Alright, so today for Foundation Friday, I'm not going to be doing a foundation review, but instead we're going to be trying on all of my foundations with the same name. So typically, I'm usually a porcelain, ivory, vanilla, usually porcelain or ivory. Ladylike first did this video about a year ago, and then I recently saw Nima Tang's video. So because I do foundation reviews every single Friday and 15 days of foundation, I have hundreds of foundations. I have a whole foundation collection video that I'll link in the eye and down below. But as I was going through all of them, I literally looked at every bottle. The most common name I found that I had was Ivory. A few years ago, my skin was at least a shade lighter than it is now somehow. I think just as I've gotten older, my skin tone has changed a little bit. So back then, I used to always be the lightest shade, and even the lightest shade wouldn't be light enough. And I think it's kind of a combo of my skin changing and then also brands coming out with more shades, especially in the last year or so. And now I find that it just completely depends on the brand. For example, Laura Mercier, Dior, their lightest shades are still about a shade to a shade and a half too dark for me. And then in other cases, there are foundations that are too light for me. Now I usually go for undertone over the shade because I find that if I have something that's more of a neutral undertone, even if it's not the lightest shade, maybe it's the second to lightest shade, it usually matches better. And I know a lot of people who have a skin tone lighter than mine still struggle with finding a foundation match, so it still exists, but I do think we're going in the right direction on both ends of the spectrum, hugely in part due to social media and people who are standing up and talking about this and making it an issue that brands need to be aware of. I feel like I need to say this. I'm in no way trying to compare the struggle of light skin finding foundation shades to deep skin. This is just my experience, so it's what I can speak on. I just want everyone to be able to have a foundation shade, okay? We all need foundation, or we all want foundation. No one needs it. We all want it. We all deserve to have a shade that matches us, okay? Peace, love everyone. All right, how many foundations did I find here? 10. That's a nice number. Okay, we have 10 foundations, all with the shade Ivory, that I'm actually going to be swatching on my face so we can see how they all compare. And then I thought it would be fun to kind of mix them together and see what shade we come up with. I think it would be super interesting to do the same video but do it with the lightest shades in each foundation range, because about half of these are the lightest but half of them aren't. They're just named Ivory and they're either the second shade, or most of them are the second shade if they're not the lightest. That would be interesting. Let me know down below if you guys want to see that. But let's get into putting Ivory foundations on my face. If you're excited for this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, I upload every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. All right, let's start out with the Covergirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir Foundation in the shade 705 Ivory. Don't even know why I'm looking. They're all called Ivory. So this foundation I love, but I have not been able to wear it on its own because it is way too dark. So here is the lightest shade of this one. I'll point out which ones are the lightest shades that are also called Ivory. Covergirl tends to not have a great shade range. Also in this one, 705 and 710, the two lightest shades, are almost identical. Whenever brands do that, I'm like, why? What was the point? Why? If they came out with a lighter shade of this, I would wear it on its own all of the time because it is beautiful satin kind of dewy finish that lasts a long time. I actually reviewed this when I had oily skin before Accutane, so if you want to know my thoughts on any of these, you can look up the reviews. Also actually link the reviews down below so you guys can just click through, making it easy for you. Let's do this stick foundation. I am pretty sure this is the lightest shade. This is 401 Ivory by L'Oreal. It's the Infallible Longwear Stick Foundation. I think I used this one time in a video, but I guess we should bring it all the way up, you know? I don't remember what I thought of it. I need to keep trying this. It's pretty yellow. That's something I also find with the light shades and foundations, is a lot of them are yellow. Now let's go in for Revlon. This is the ColorStay Full Cover 110 Ivory Matte, whatever this is. 110 Ivory. I actually don't know. Have I reviewed this one? I must have. I don't even remember reviewing this one. Okay, so that one is definitely lighter. I think if this was all over my face, if it didn't oxidize, it might be about, looking at my neck, because my face is darker, looking at my neck, it would probably be about half a shade too light. So this one is their lightest shade, and I would say it's, much better than these two as far as light shade. Next up, we have another one by Covergirl. This is the 3-in-1 in 810 Ivory. This is classic Ivory. A couple of these have rose ivory, classic ivory, but, still ivory. I should probably shake this because I don't think I've used this for about 3 years. This one oxidizes so badly on me. I've never been able to wear it because it turns straight up orange. That was not a good swatch. I don't know why I tried to do that with my bad hand. By the time I swatch everything else, this one will probably darken at least a shade. Next up is a newer foundation from L'Oreal. This is their Fresh Wear foundation. I love this one. It's in the shade Rose Ivory. I'm not the lightest shade and I'm not this one, so I need to get the shade in between for this. This one is too dark. Looking at my neck, you can see the undertone of this one definitely looks a bit better, but this shade for some reason does oxidize on me. The lightest shade doesn't, but this 415 shade does. Next up we have e.l.f. Acne Fighting Foundation. This, when I had acne, was one of my favorite foundations ever. It looks beautiful on the skin. It gives you coverage, but it's like a beautiful satin finish. I actually want to whip this out and try this again, but this is in the shade Ivory. And for a while, I think this was the lightest shade and it was always too dark. I always had to mix it. I don't know why I keep putting this on my left hand. Not that ambidextrous. But yeah, this is the shade I had to use for a while, and I would just mix it with either a white mixer or a lighter foundation because it is way dark. It's about 3 to 4 shades too dark. I feel like it's not looking as bad on camera right now, but when it's all over my face, it's definitely way dark. We're gonna put this bad boy right on the middle of my forehead. This is the Marc Jacobs Remarkable words are hard right now. Remarkable foundation in the shade 12 Ivory. So this is the second to lightest shade. And this shade jump between 10 and 12 is insane. 10 is too light, 12 is about 3 shades too dark. They could have had at least 4 shades between 10 and 12. So this one is an example where it's not the lightest shade, but this is the shade Ivory. Also a foundation that I used to really love. I haven't used this in a long time and mine looks like super separated. This one is super full coverage. This one has a very yellow undertone to it too, so if you struggle to find yellow undertones and you like super full coverage, this one might actually be a good like mixing shade for you if it doesn't match exactly. This is what I used to use this foundation for, is adding coverage when I had acne, because it is complete opaque full coverage and you need like the tiniest bit of this. This would go all over, but there's no way I would call this shade Ivory. So let's go in for CoverGirl CG Smoother 705 Ivory. This is their lightest shade, and this one is actually the best CoverGirl shade match I've found so far. It is pretty close in terms of undertone and shade, which is a little ironic because this is one of their oldest foundations. Even looking at that, like, check out the difference in shade between those two. This is a new foundation from IT Cosmetics, the Confidence in a Foundation. This is the shade 100 Light Ivory. I have their, I think, 3 or 4 lightest shades, and this is the lightest one, and this is the one that has Ivory in the name. I've actually only tried this one with Self Tanner on, which you guys saw in that review, so I'm not sure how this shade is on its own for me, or what shade I am in theirs. But there we go. Oh, that one looks pretty. That looks like the lightest for sure out of everything on my face right now. All right, and then last up we have the Maybelline Fit Me Dewy and Smooth in the shade 115 Ivory. You guessed it. I like the Dewy and Smooth. I just can't find a perfect shade match in it, and it's a really interesting formula. Like, it's very buttery and almost like too glidey, but it looks really pretty and it mixes really well. I like it way better than the Matte and Poreless. Where should we do this one? Let's go over here. So this one is definitely a couple shades darker than these two, and it has more of like a peachy undertone. 5, 6, 7, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 10. Math. So now that we have 10 shades of Ivory on my face, I'm gonna go wash off my face, and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna mix all these together. Okay, I'm back, and the question is, do we think I'm gonna be able to mix all 10 shades on one foundation palette? I think we can do it. Let's try. Living on the edge. Oh, how am I gonna mix this one? I might just do a little swipe here. Yeah, we're gonna do that after. Okay, I'm just gonna do the tiniest bit of each, so I don't have a mountain of foundation. Actually, I almost added this one. Good off there, Mark. I hate pouring this one out. Just a tiny bit. There we go. To mix this one in, I'm just gonna kind of mix it in on my face. So I'm gonna put this like that. Stir it up. Okay, so here's the shade. That shade actually looks really promising, I think. Maybe? Yeah, looking at my neck, I think it looks pretty good. I am all for mixing foundations because it can just give you the best kind of finish for your skin if you mix 2 foundations that, you know, one is missing something that the other one has. Sometimes you gotta mix them to address the shade too. You know, my ears are like bright red right now. I had to hop back on. It's all good. It's definitely already oxidizing, looking at my neck, so it's probably the CoverGirl. There's a few oxidizers in here. Hard to say which one it is, but yeah, definitely a little bit dark. Full coverage. The shade is totally off, but the finish is actually looking really good, and I'm loving the coverage. I need to mix that Marc one again. I forget how much I like that. So if you want to get this foundation look, all you have to do is mix 10 shades. No big deal. Just gonna smooth this over with my sponge. Okay, I'm actually really liking the finish of this. The shade is just off. I don't know if it's totally showing up on camera, but it's definitely about, not too bad, about a shade too dark, maybe a shade and a half, but the undertone is just really off. It looks like super yellow. But if you were wondering, this is what 10 shades of foundation in the shade Ivory looks like, all mixed together. I know you've been just having a burning desire to know what that looks like. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Normally every single Friday I do foundation reviews, so if you want to stick around for those, you can join the Bayrito family and subscribe. Oh, have I had lash glue in my eyelash this entire time? That's cool. Okay, I ate Kraft mac and cheese a few minutes ago and I'm really regretting it. It's not sitting well right now. I'm feeling like I kind of want to play with some of these now that I haven't like whipped out in a while, like this one and the e.l.f. one. I'm definitely going to be testing these in different ways and like mixing them and stuff. So I'm putting that in my to try foundation pile. I am still doing foundation update videos too, so another one will probably be coming in like a month or so, but that's kind of just where I update you guys on random foundations I've been trying or reviews or whatever. If you enjoyed today's video, you can give this a thumbs up. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.